welcome to the next video, and we're just going to talk briefly about barrel jacket covers. And in a previous video I alluded to that we'd talk about this because you can't see the full paint of the water jacket. But this one's an Australian barrel jacket cover. They are asbestos lined, probably first fair warning there, and it's a fibrous asbestos, so if you have one, take very good care with it. Preferably don't take it off of the Vickers, and get in touch with us if you want any advice on how to deal with that. Certainly, for the sort of historical integrity of things, try not to strip them down, or try not to strip the asbestos from it, because you'll then have to deal with asbestos materials as well. So get in touch if you need any help with that, and possibly consider whether that's something you want in the collection. But let's say the Australian barrel jacket covers the full length of the gun. Now, we have seen these in British service in one instance, and that is with the 2nd Battalion, the Middlesex Regiment, in 1945, late 1945, when they've gone to Palestine, and they've clearly had some Australian supplies come through the Middle East and the units that were there, because the British water jacket cover, as you can see on this, only covers 2/3 of the gun. It doesn't have the central strap, which we'll talk about in a moment, and it's still padded, and it has larger eyelets on it as well, larger and obviously fewer because it goes along the left, whereas you have these small eyelets that go along the Australian water jacket cover. So quite a difference, and something that really you can get away with not having a gun as long as it's nicely painted, as we've talked about, not having a water jacket on the gun, and certainly that having nothing at all looks better for a British portrayal than having the Australian water jackets, because it's quite distinctive. We are lucky enough to have a working pattern, a sealed pattern of the water jacket cover in the collection. You can just see the detail of it there, and this clearly remained in stores until 1965 there. It's got its last check on, and all of the stamps for previous years here, right back to the Second World War, 1943 I think is the earliest on this example. Now, these were used and held in the central ordnance depots to be compared with, so when stuff came through and was being checked, this would be an approved item that you could compare to check for any damage or design faults or anything. But if we look at the cover itself, so you've got these eyelets that run along here, 8 on each side, the string, the correct gauge string on this one, and a nice WD marking here. Inside, this one isn't an asbestos lining, I don't believe, but it's certainly not the white fibrous asbestos that we're used to. So they need good care anyway, but you can see the thermal lining on this one. The example on the gun here is actually a reproduction and has a modern thermal material sewn into it, so that it does still provide the good sort of heat resistant qualities that you need from a boiling water jacket full of 7.5 pints of water, because it will quite happily scald your hand if you've been firing them. So the central strap that's on the Australian water jacket, is a piece of additional information, has 2 loops in it. They're not finger loops. You will hurt your fingers if you try and pick up the weight of the Vickers on just 2 fingers. They're actually made for the 1937 pattern or 1908 pattern rifle sling, which goes through the loop like so, and then this can be used to put down to the rear cross piece of the gun, and it can be carried as a backpack. So you have these the 2 rifle slings through the loops down to the cross piece, and you can carry the gun over your back, arm through each shoulder, and much easier to carry in that way. So again, a bit of Australian ingenuity with this example, whereas obviously on the British example behind, there's none of that. It provides some padding for the shoulder, but that's it.